Hello and welcome to the Doctors Who podcast. My name is Chris.
I'm Chip.
I'm Brian.
And today we are going to be basically wrapping up The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss.
So we did it with 10 weeks or 10 episodes,
10 episodes
on the book. So
yeah, and the first couple were a little long.
Yeah.
But I think
we kind of found a good rhythm.
We did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I know just from keeping track on metrics and analytics and things like that, we've gotten a lot more engagement as we went on. So I think once we kind of tightened up the format and made it a little bit more accessible, it worked really well.
So keep the episodes a little bit shorter, digestible.
But
we read a book.
We did. We read a whole freaking book.
Good job, guys.
I haven't.
Good job, you.
I still like to read.
I do too.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good for us.
Yeah. I mean, I have small kids, so I like to read things that aren't picture books.
Good point.
Yeah. But what we're going to do today is we're basically going to just kind of give our thoughts, what we liked, what we didn't like, maybe speculate on what they're doing with the upcoming
they're doing
movie
a prequel series.
Show,
they're doing like a prequel series and a movie out of the book, I think.
And then maybe, so, Chip, you've read A Wise Man's Fear, right?
I have.
We have not. At least
Correct.
I assume you haven't.
You are correct.
So it feels really up in the air. I think I said last time that when he started talking about like his favorite parts yet to come, and he started mentioning events that we've got no context on.
Yep.
It really kind of evoked the first Star Wars movie, and I mean like the old 1977
A New Hope.
I mean, I have problems calling it A New Hope because when I saw it, it wasn't A New Hope.
That's true.
But anyway, but like when Obi-Wan was telling Luke about his father and how they fought in the Clone Wars, and you just had like these images of something really cool, but they were super vague.
Yeah, because he had no clue what is a Clone War.
Right.
What do they mean by this?
Yeah.
And there's having read A Wise Man's Fear, and I've only read that one once. This last read through of The Name of the Wind was my third time through it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of foreshadowing and things that he really, and you saw it within the book itself, where Rothfuss plants a lot of seeds that kind of come to fruition as the story unfolds. But they even become more so as they move into the second book. And I assume once he gets the third book written, which I do believe he'll have it out at some point here in the next year or two.
I've seen a lot of comments online that like, oh, this is another George R.R. Martin.
Yeah, he's highly active on social media, and he's put a lot of information out there, and he's enjoying some of his success, which I can't fault him for that.
No, I get it.
He's created a game. He's got he's really big in the gaming world, and if I were him, I'd enjoy it. It sounds like a fun time.
Yes.
So, as long as he writes it at some point and gets it out there. But but he does do a lot of good foreshadowing and a lot of kind of threads that he's kind of laid the groundwork for that I think we'll see a lot of payoff. And you'll see it in A Wise Man's Fear, and hopefully we'll see it.
Well, and we've kind of talked about it in the first book where like he pops things in there and they seem relatively obscure and like
kind
just
of benign,
benign, great,
Yep.
And like later you're like,
yeah, this makes sense now.
Oh,
I see what he was doing.
So
there.
he's intentional.
Yes.
And I will say, to continue along the George R.R. Martin parallel, I think I respect him as an author much more than George R.R. Martin.
I do.
I mean, because I don't have a whole lot of.
I kind of lost a lot of respect for Martin, I guess.
Same.
With the series, I mean, Game of Thrones was a huge hit.
Yeah.
Can't deny it. It was a great show until the final season. And they kind of petered out once they got past the books and really didn't have his material to draw from, which says a lot about, the books that he did write.
It does.
But it just doesn't seem like his heart's in really finishing it.
No.
I don't think.
Well, and part of it is he describes his writing process as kind of being a
gardener,
where he doesn't like plan out in advance. He just writes and sees what happens. I think he wrote himself into a corner. I don't think he knows where to go to get where he needs to be.
And it kind of go, when you juxtapose that with what Robert Jordan did with Wheel of Time, and the fact that Brandon Sanderson was able to come in.
Oh yeah.
Well, then the fact that Brandon Sanderson was able to come in, use Jordan's notes and plotting to finish the series, and did so very well.
Yeah.
It was, it was a very satisfying ending. To what did it be? 15 books? Is that where it ended up?
I mean, I could
something like that.
go over and count them right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's different authors have different approaches, and I think from what I've read about Rothfuss, I think he might kind of fall somewhere in between Martin and Jordan, where he's got some definite ideas of where he's going and what he wants to do.
Right.
But I don't know that he's as meticulously plotted things out as Jordan has.
No,
but,
sure.
But I'm curious, Brian. I mean, this was your first time through it. So what are your thoughts on it?
So, it really reads kind of like an RPG. I mean, like when I was reading it, I kind of got a feel of, and of course, like I'm a huge Zelda fan. Like I love playing the games.
And I know Rothfuss is a big gamer, so it
might. I mean, it really feels like you're on kind of
like
one
you're in Hyrule or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you're on kind of one big main quest, and then like his little side quests that he does, like with the Aeolian and like how he runs in with Denna. It's like kind of a recurring cast of characters that he just frequently runs into. But it's a solid book that really draws you in. It has some kind of common themes, like all of the mentions of iron, and like it kind of feels the part of like a good sci-fi book. So I was really surprised with how much I enjoyed the novel, although I do have some lingering questions, like such as this is a trilogy, or it's at least penned to be a trilogy.
It's the Kingkiller Chronicles.
And that's my question is, we have yet to meet a king.
Right.
That's a good point.
Well, but I think Kvothe said at the very end, he's like, this is what you've gotten in here so far is basically the building blocks.
It's like the foundation.
This is the foundation, and from here we can get into
it's
that.
the launching pad for a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
So. What did you think? I know both of you are big fans of the Harry Potter series, and I am as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember the first time I read this, I felt like this is kind of like I don't know if it's a grown-up Harry Potter type story where it's him going to the university, Harry Potter going to Hogwarts, figuring out all this stuff of who he is. I mean, I think that there's some parallels there, but I like the way that Rothfuss's world seems a lot more real than Harry Potter.
It seems like the rules of magic are a lot more grounded in reality.
Yeah, and I like that.
There's that, and then there's also the thing like, why would you give a student a time machine?
Right? Yeah. What good can come from this?
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's...
But it definitely was like that elemental sort of magic where, it's sympathy.
Yeah. It seemed very plausible.
It did.
It's like, I could go out and do that today, but I can't. But it feels like you could.
But did you try?
I haven't yet.
Then how do you know you can't?
Because I
need to keep trying.
Yeah. So, I would like to touch on some things that I really liked, and then some things that maybe kind of bothered me a little bit.
Okay.
You're going to start with what you liked?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to start with what I liked. So, he constructed a world that, as we just said, is incredibly real and tangible. It's like, it feels like this could actually be something that exists. I mean, it is well thought out. The magic system has clear boundaries and rules, which you don't always get. And
well, there's a social structure too
yes,
within the world.
Yes, like you have your almost like your different societies and your different civilizations, and the caste system is there, and it's very nuanced, yet it's very real.
Yeah.
Right? So I really love that. I love the progression. I like the fact that we get to see him, like, as a child, losing everything, eventually finding his way to the university through a great deal of, like, torment and hardship. What kind of, like, strained the credibility was that Denna just happened to be up at the wedding.
Everywhere, yeah.
I think we called one of the segments that we did was staggering coincidence?
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That there was a lot of things that felt like he forced things into place so that Denna and Kvothe would just happen to be at the same place. That
and
Denna happened to play at the wedding, and Kvothe came up right after it.
And I have to admit, Denna is not one of my favorite characters.
No, and she's not
No.
as... And I don't know if it's purposeful or not, the way she's written, but, Kvothe has this big infatuation with her one fella from the... Or Fela, I don't know how
From
we say it.
class,
Yeah.
yeah.
From class, she seems a lot hotter to me and more
Right,
intriguing to me.
yes.
She seems
Oh, absolutely.
cool, she's smart, she knows her stuff.
Or even
She buys him a cloak.
she saves her life.
I still like Debbie as well.
Debbie's very
Debbie's
interesting.
cool. I want to
She's
know
a
more
fun
about her.
character.
And I
Yeah.
think we will, and I think Ari's got a lot bigger
Oh, I'm sure.
role,
Yeah.
or I think there's more
Well,
to her
and
than
so
we've
much
seen.
what you
backstory.
said in the last episode was there's actually a novella about Ari, right?
The Slow Regard of Silent
Yeah.
Things.
So
And it reads a lot differently than the other books.
I would be interested in checking that out because
And I've got a copy of it
Yeah.
somewhere. And it's different, but it's basically Ari's story. And I honestly don't remember a lot of it. I just remember reading it, but it was very poetic in the way it read.
Brian, did you get this?
I've not.
There you go.
All right.
We would hate for you to be thirsty.
If you haven't had time to check it out, now's a good time to look at our beer segment.
Yeah.
There you go.
Shameless promotion.
Shameless
There we go.
promotion. We had a Belgian brouhaha.
Yes, Belgian Ale Brouhaha.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of ABVs.
So Brian is pouring the granddaddy of the triple ales.
So feel free to go
Delicious.
check that out on our channel.
Yep.
No, but largely this was
Solid book, man.
very well done.
And the other thing I liked is that there were some tropes that he broke too. That the
Yes.
the whole idea of a dragon in fantasy
Yeah.
is such a big, fantastical thing.
Right.
But the dragon here was just really a giant lizard.
It was like a
was a
lumbering lizard.
Yeah, it was.
lizard,
It was a lumbering bovine.
It was a scaled cow.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
That
It
could
had
breathe
iron
fire.
scales.
That belched fire, but
But even then, that was one part I really liked was
I loved it.
Rothfuss actually went into how does the Dracus breathe fire?
Yeah.
Does he have
Yes.
a gas pouch somewhere
Right.
in his
yeah.
And why is
It
it?
was
It's
really
drawn
good.
to fire.
Right.
So it stirs fires and then it's drawn
Puts
to
them
putting
out.
them out.
So-
It's like Smokey the Bear.
it just seemed very logical the way that it was structured.
and this is going to be a little bit of a tangent, so I apologize. But I'm doing. You know what? Screw you guys.
Oh man, come back here.
Fire away. All right, go. Uh-oh, Stormbreaker.
So I'm
Older,
doing.
but I don't think I can lift it.
Nope.
I'm doing NaNoWriMo this year, National Novel Writing Month.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've
And
heard about that. I've just
reading
never...
reading this has actually taught me a few things, because I tried to do it 10 or 12 years ago, and I was just heavy on the exposition right up front, and it's just no, you need to leak these details periodically. So I've actually learned a lot from reading this that I didn't realize until I started to start to formulate a story, and I'm like,
Sure.
it's harder than it looks.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Well, that's
Very
where I
cool.
think, going back to the different writers we've read, that, talking about between Jordan and Martin and Rothfuss, and
yeah.
there's other big ones in the genre.
Frank Herbert's one of my favorites.
Oh, Herbert's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And we can talk about him in our next episode when we talk about the next book we're going to do. 'Cause
Mhm.
I think there's some
Ooh.
parallels.
Nice.
But what I was going to say is that, I was an English major in college, and I did a lot of creative writing, took, I think, as many creative writing courses as I could through college. And I was much more in the Jordan realm, where I would try to do an outline and kind of lay out those things that I
Meticulously
wanted to
plan all these
cover
things,
and
sure.
how I wanted to cover them. I didn't just go in, like Martin says, and plant seeds and just kind of see where they go.
Right.
I usually knew where I wanted to go. I just could never really get there. Right?
Sure.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm only 6,000 or 7,000 words in, and I'm just oh my gosh,
It's exhausting.
I'm already exhausted. I'm sure the Belgian beer is not helping, but
So thinking
But still.
about the book, though, and knowing that, okay, so it's been greenlit for at least a movie of the book,
Mhm.
and then I think they're going to do a prequel series of some sort set in the same world.
Sure.
What do you guys think about where do they go? Because they've got guy that did Hamilton?
Lin-Manuel
Miranda.
Yeah.
I think he's on board to do the music and kind of the score for the movie, I believe.
So here's something that I don't know if this is typical or atypical, but I think we broached the question in an earlier episode. It's like who's your ideal casting, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I have no idea.
When I think I said that, and it's not possible unless they do it with CGI, is David Bowie would be my ideal older Kvothe, sitting behind the bar. But aside from that, I have no clue. Right. And I saw, I think it was Rothfuss does a live blog or a video blog thing. Now, I don't know how often he does it. But he was talking about one where he said, don't ask me to sing Tinker Tanner because there's no music to it. He's got the words, but there's no rhyme, there's no rhythm to it. So, it's taking some of these things and being able to put music to this, because music's such a big part of the book, which I thought was interesting too, because music's almost like another magic really within the book. And having seen Hamilton, and I went into it cold, not really knowing what I was going to get into, but I really enjoyed it. It was really well done. I'm anxious to see what Lin-Manuel Miranda can do with the music and the idea of taking kind of this fantastical world and building some sort of a score and music for it. And I know you guys are much more versed in music than I am, so but I'd be curious to hear your thoughts about how you foresee that playing out.
I would say I know nothing about Hamilton. I've never.
He's on the $10 bill.
Oh, okay. Well,
he was shot by Aaron Burr.
I know him quite well.
He was shot in a duel.
Yeah.
Just don't eat peanut butter if you're going to try to call college.
So here's my thought, and like reading Tolkien, like there's a lot of like song and singing and poetry and things like that I don't.
And there's a rhythm to reading those books.
There is, yeah. I don't think that necessarily translates well into film a lot of times.
No.
You're right.
And when you think about what Jackson did with the Lord of the Rings movies, I mean, he cut Tom Bombadil out
completely.
And Bombadil was a big.
Yeah.
I mean, he always was singing and doing stuff.
Yes. Well, I'm sure that's not why he did it, but that.
No, but I don't know.
I almost feel like that first movie he was really trying to like maintain some grasp on reality, and Bombadil would have just like.
Well, and and he was making a movie for a modern audience, and you needed action, and Bombadil wasn't really an action scene, other than saving them from the barrel weight. But,
and even that, it wasn't really action; it was just like stepping in.
Right.
Yeah. But I think it's a difficult call in something like Tolkien. I can see how a lot of the stuff in The Name of the Wind would translate well. You just have to keep it short and concise.
But how do you make? Because I mean, to me, the music that I hear when I read it, it's much more Renaissance style of music, or something you'd hear in a Shakespearean theater, not necessarily like. How would that translate to a modern audience that you're trying to sell this to?
Sure.
I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think there's a lot of potential. So,
yeah.
So have they done any casting?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so
not that fair.
I did get really excited the other day, and I thought that they had started casting people, but then I realized it was just people's fantasy casts online.
Oh yeah.
Did you share that with me?
I did.
Okay, and I was like, I don't think this is true, Brian.
I know.
Who did the people want?
There are people who wanted
Tom Cruise. No, I don't know.
Eddie Redmayne, who did the Fantastic Beasts from Harry Potter.
Oh, sure.
I could almost see that.
I could.
Because you'd almost have to cast it where you've got younger Kvothe and older Kvothe.
Right.
And I don't know if you could probably CGI it down, but I'd rather see two actors playing. Because it's really two different roles, the way they're written in the book.
Well, so, having read the second book, is there any indication of how much time has passed between his time at the university and when he's at the inn? Like, how old is he when he's at the inn? Do they go into that at all?
I can't. It's been
Okay,
6 or 7 years since I've read it.
Because that was something that was just kind of nebulous that I really didn't.
Because I assume in the end he's probably in his 30s or 40s.
Right. That was the assumption I had.
And
but
Name of the Wind, really, he's, what is he, 15?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Roughly.
Right.
You know, it's a span of a couple years at the university, or a year.
He's lived
It's
a lot.
really a year at the university.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he even makes it through a year by the end of the book.
Right.
No, you know.
And he was kicked
Although
out
it's-
younger than most people.
It's hard
you
to
know,
say what a
get
year
admitted.
is.
Right.
Like they never established
True,
what a
because they
year
talk
is.
about a span, and I think we figured out a span was like
2 months of
8
40
weeks.
days.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a span is 8 weeks, and I think they said that a week is like 10 days or something.
Something like that,
There-
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's people that did a lot more research than we did on what all the time frame
Oh, yeah.
is.
Yeah.
But he was there for at least 2 spans.
Yeah.
So
So I think in the interest of keeping this concise, is there any nugget of wisdom we want to impart on everyone before we sign off?
wisdom from this group.
You might be asking a lot there.
I'm using the term loosely.
Okay.
Right. Just pretend. Just go with it. Do we recommend this book?
For me, I highly recommend the book,
I
and
do
I
too.
recommend the Wise Man's
Absolutely.
Fear too. So.
Absolutely.
And that's one that I'm gonna have to pick up. And I think it's a conversation of, are we gonna cover that on the show?
I think we should at some
I think we
point.
At
should.
some point, yes.
Our next episode, we will reveal what we're doing next. So maybe it'll be a Wise Man's Fear. Never know.
Never know.
I mean, I know, but you don't know.
Yeah.
You
know?
guys know.
Yeah, we do. Wait,
I don't know.
I think so.
I don't know anything.
It's the compendium of the Berenstain Bears.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right.
Oh, big brother and sister, and
Yeah.
that's right. I forgot
Okay.
about that.
All right.
All right. Well, until next time.
Yeah, this is Patrick Rothfuss's The Name of the Wind, the first novel of the Kingkiller Chronicles.
That's right.
Definitely worth checking out. I think all three of us recommend it. So if you haven't read it,
Do it now.
check it out. You were able to find it on YouTube, like the audio version, right?
Yep.
So
Audio's online.
there is. It's not cost prohibitive, is I think what we're trying to say.
That's always good.
And then there's also this thing called the library.
Cool place.
Yeah,
They still have those.
they do.
They still do.
That's
Yeah.
good.
They still do.
I do have my library card for Altoona.
Good job.
so.
Good job. All right. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for putting up with our rambling. We will see you next time. You can find us on social media at TDW Podcast. That's on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Please click the subscribe button that is somewhere down there. And then lastly, you can find us at www.tardiscast.com. Thank you for joining us. Leave a comment down below, and we'll see you next time.
Allons-y.
Wait, how do you stop this thing?